Alright, we're all leveled up. So what are we doing? Well, let's look at our quests. We still have to find armor and a firearm for cavesofqud, but why don't we tackle Red Rock again, now that we're better prepared. First, let's hit Control tilde to wait until morning, and then we'll head back towards Red Rock. Now, there's the entrance to Red Rock, but how about we get some well-deserved revenge on the baboons? Ah boy, there's a lot going on here, isn't there? This leads me to the subject of this episode, which is combat. There are a lot of ways we can find ourselves at a disadvantage, much like when we first encountered the baboons, but there are also a lot of ways to turn things around to your advantage. Let's start by trying to parse the situation. Holding Alt will clearly display friendly and not friendly creatures. Yeah, there are friendly creatures. Now, green doesn't necessarily mean friendly so much as doesn't feel like hurting you. You can find out if a creature is friendly by going into the factions menu. But let's focus for the moment. Even if a creature is apathetic to your existence, there's a possibility that they can fight on your side. Should a stray arrow hit a creature, they will fight their attacker. This goes for you too, by the way, so watch your fire. So, first things first. It's easier to fight a creature on its own than with a friend. Let's fight that baboon there. We know they're equipped with a rock, and that they're not too shy about whipping it at our cranium. So what can we do about that? Let's hide behind a tree. If a ranged unit can't see you, they will make efforts to chase you down. If a ranged unit is right in front of you, they will commit to fighting with their melee weapons. In this case, that would be bite. Using this method, you can close the distance between you and a ranged fighter. This quickly turns a bad situation into a good one. So how is this combat going? We're not taking too much damage, but how is the baboon doing? We can look at it with L, but we can also see the status of the creature we are currently fighting down here. Ouch. Okay, this is getting rough. But don't panic, sometimes you need to commit. Running is an option, but they can throw rocks at you, remember, so it might be better to try to kill a couple instead of running. We've got an ability, we should really use it. Flurry makes us make an attack with every hand, which right now we have a torch equipped in our other hand, don't we? But hey, a torch is still a big stick, right? Wrong. If lit, it's also a big stick on fire. A torch has a penetration of 4 and deals 1d2 damage. In addition, anything hit with a lit torch has its temperature increased by 3d20. No, I'm not kidding. And what does all of that mean right now? Well, it means we are attacking with a big stick on fire. I'll get into some of the details of combat mechanics later, but I don't believe you need to know how the numbers work in order to play CUD well. Just know that big numbers are good, and bigger numbers are better, and later we'll get into it. Oh hey, we're almost dead. No worries, we have witchwood bark. You may discover this yourself, but eating witchwood bark actually has 2 effects. It heals you, but it also has the potential to confuse you. This can be bad, but not the end of the world. And yes, it is absolutely worth the heal to potentially be confused. I'll talk more about effects later, but I didn't get confused this time, so we'll move on for now. Don't forget to use your oops. Yep, your abilities have cooldowns. Flurry's cooldown varies depending on your willpower, but for this run it will range from 69 turns to 78 turns. Something you should make a habit of doing is to wait until your abilities cool down before engaging with a new combat. You can do this easily by pressing Shift W, and as of the most recent update, the wait field will be auto-filled with the highest of all your current cooldowns. It's important to stay vigilant in CUD. Keeping your abilities off cooldown is an example of how to do that. After all, starting a new combat with Flurry can end the combat in the first turn, effectively making a potentially difficult combat into an easy one. Now imagine if you had about 5 other abilities. Starting every combat with those abilities can make every combat easy. I know I'm really drilling this, but it's important. Being good at CUD doesn't have to be about knowing numbers or about having an encyclopedic knowledge of all the creatures in the game. Being good can be as simple as maintaining a few good habits. Okay, now that we've had our fill of killing baboons, let's head to Red Rock. Pressing num + will descend. If you aren't standing on a staircase, your character will auto-walk to the nearest staircase heading down that you know of. Let's get some light in here. Alright, let's see what we got here. Ah, angry cannibals. Well, there's only one, but wait, angry plants? And we're not alone. Whoa, what was that? Right, the dread tuber really lives up to its name. More on this in a bit. Wow, looks like a veritable army of monsters here. Okay, so what do we do? Don't panic. Keep your footing and stay on the stair. This can save your life. You should always have an exit plan, and your exit plan shouldn't include sprinting full speed into the unknown. We know where we came from, which is lit, and we know it's safe. But outside of knowing it's safe outside, the stairs offer a huge tactical advantage to you, a choke point. As soon as you step off of that stair, you invite other monsters to step on. Once they block your path, you can't get back out. If that monster happens to be a big tank with extra weaponry, then you're in a lot of trouble. You now have no exit plan. You can actually fight on the stair by pressing num plus or num minus if you're on the bottom of the stair fighting up. This can be better, as the stairs is where the choke point is, but for the sake of demonstrating, I've taken a step back to illustrate fighting one enemy at a time on the stair. Now, regarding plants. The dread tuber causes fear, but outside of that, they have no way of fighting. On the other hand, some plants have some major firepower. Some can even be ranged fighters. Yeah, sometimes you gotta fight plants in Qud. I'm talking about drop-kicking some zinnias and pistol-whipping a gardenia. But what about the dread tuber? We just walk over it. Remember, you can force attack by using Control plus the direction. But why kill the poor dread tuber? Plants aren't a big problem now, but they can be run enders in the future, and even the dread tuber can be a problem in the right circumstance. Removing hazards can be a good idea, and creating a safe area, a controlled environment, can be a good thing to do. This way I know I can come back here without worrying about something getting in my way. Let's loot the bodies. Oh hey, our first trade good. Your character will auto pick up trade goods. Trade is always good, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Let's continue. Did you see that? You might have missed it, but it happened. Keep your log in your peripheral vision. You're being shot at. You could run, but that will give them more opportunities to shoot at you. Let's rush them. Oh, this is bad. Remember, sprinting isn't always an option, but I don't want to end this combat just yet, and sprint has a long cooldown, so if you're going to use it, you should run fully out of combat and wait for your cooldown to lapse. Let's just take a step back. The melee fighters follow us, the ranged fighters stay back. The ranged fighters don't have perfect aim, so now we have a couple of meat shields. This is better, but we can't rely on this. Let's further push things to our advantage. We'll fall back to our safe zone. We can use this tunnel as a choke point and position ourselves so the ranged users can't hit us. They can reach us here. Let's rush the ranged users. We know they have to be close, so we can force them into melee. We could also fall back a bit and force them to come through the tunnel. Now that we're out of combat, don't forget to hit tilde to wait until healed. That's one of those good habits to keep. Speaking of keeping things, what spoils do we keep? Expect an entire video on equipment and another video about managing encumbrance, but for now, we take everything and, oh hey, a bow! Yeah, ranged weapons are really important, no matter what shape they take. But I thought we cowboy! We are, but we don't have a pistol. But how can we use a bow if we haven't spec'd into bows and rifles? Skills aren't requirements to use a weapon, they just make you better at using them. They make you proficient. Besides the weight, it costs you nothing to equip a ranged weapon, since they have their own equipment slot. Having and using a ranged weapon can really make the difference in a battle, and levels the playing field for you and many creatures that otherwise have crazy advantages. But more than anything, it just gives you another way of doling out the damage. Oh dang! Okay, don't panic. Remember our training. Everything we've learned comes to this. First, let's get out of the fire. We're not on fire now, but if we were, num 5 to wait makes our character attempt to pat themselves out. Ah, our first legendary. Uhuwoof, the learned Snapjaw Fire Snarler. They're a swarm alpha. They give a benefit to their companions. She also gains a benefit by being adjacent to her companions. Luckily, we've already dispensed with her companions. She's loved by Snapjaws and hated by worms. It's important to note that all legendary creatures have reputation in some form. So if you see a pink creature like this, you should always look at them and see what kind of reputation you're going to gain or lose by killing them. There are methods of making friends with legendaries even if they're hostile with you, but we'll talk about that later. We know the creature is melee, and that they have a pyrokinetic ability. The nice thing is, they just used it, and unless they have a great ego, they will also have a cooldown on their ability. Let's use the bow. Press F, and once our shot is lined up, F again. Nice. Nice. 2 criticals. We got lucky. That's a good 17 damage we wouldn't have done without the bow. If you know your opponent is melee, you can get a few shots in before they close the distance between you and them. Use your abilities. They cracked our gear. This is a temporary effect that renders a part of our gear useless for a little while. So, is this fight too much for us? Pay attention to the status of the creature. They're wounded, so we know a few more good hits will do the trick. Yes, we lost Snapjaw rep. This is bound to happen, but you can do a run where you make friends with Snapjaws. We got a bit of rep with worms though. Alright, wow, that was a lot. And our character could use a break and a bite, so let's also take a rest. There's a lot to process. Know that in just about every situation there are ways to make things easier on yourself. Sometimes the easiest thing you can do for yourself is run and come back later, because a few easy level ups and gear upgrades can make the difference. But I know, pushing yourself can be very rewarding as well. Just practice good habits. Heal after combat with tilde. Use your items like witchwood bark. Use your abilities. Recover your abilities by using Shift W to wait for cooldowns. Try to fight enemies one at a time. Create a save zone. Plan your exit route. Have some backup plans. Have a panic button. But don't panic. Keep an eye on your enemy's status. Try to make ranged enemies come to you. Be a ranged user. Use every advantage until eventually you can make a difficult situation easy. Next time we will continue down into Red Rock, talk a little bit more about spoils, both equipment and trade, as well as the eternal battle with encumbrance. I hope you found this informative. If you did, hit the like button and consider subscribing for more QUD content. I'll see you guys next time.